when I think about what the impetus was for my drive, it was my son. And so even though it wasn't a planned pregnancy, that me becoming a mother at such a young age really drove me in terms of what I had to do to make a life for my son and myself. And quite honestly, on the IBM front, one, to go back to school, because that would allow me to be able to create an economic picture for my son and myself that I didn't have growing up. Yeah. And so he was that wind in my back and beneath my wings.
Yeah.
My son has always been a very special. He was a very special child. He became a very special young man. He went to Harvard Westlake School. At the time, it was just Harvard Boys School that I was able to finance a private school for him. And then he went on and graduated from Yale University. And became an actor. So what Tige is looking for is the mic drop that he was in Pulp Fiction. He was Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
That part.
And he was a UPS guy on what's the name of that skit show? Oh my God!
Well, if you say his name, the fans will know.
Phil LaMarr. The UPS guy on Mad TV. How can I forget that? He did 100 episodes on Mad TV.
Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Reality Podcast with your girl, Tige Charity. This podcast is for C-suite leaders to discuss their experiences and provide insight, encouragement, and inspiration for seasoned and inspiring leaders, offering valuable solutions to today's challenges that will inspire, ignite, and invigorate new and seasoned leaders to walk in their God-given authority with compassion, kindness, and empathy. So sit back, relax, and be prepared to be inspired with today's episode of Leadership Reality. Thank you.
Welcome back to another episode of Leadership Realities with me, your girl, Tige Charity, where we will be sharing tales from the top. Our guest today, y'all, is my shero and friend, Miss Betty LaMarr, founder of EmpowHer Institute. She is now enjoying retirement, or as I recently heard someone say, rewirement, okay? We call her the CEO of Fun and Travel, but she is also a social justice advocate, consultant, and executive coach who is passionate about serving women and girls. Y'all, I have benefited from her coaching. So I want to say welcome, Miss Betty. You already know I am I'm like a little kid in the candy shop, because when I started Leadership Reality, she was one of the first one I called and said, I need you on the show. Okay, I need you. But we also had recently the new CEO, well, she's not new anymore, but the CEO of EmpowHer a few weeks ago, Miss Donnie Brown. So, Miss Betty.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Tige, calm down. Okay, let me calm
I am thrilled to be in Tige Charity energy, just so you know.
Because it'd be off the chain sometimes.
Listen, not off the chain. It just elevates us all. So I just love you.
Thank you, Miss Betty. Well, first, can you tell me, you are the founder of EmpowHer, and of course, when you Google anything about STEM, elevating girls, EmpowHer is like the first organization that pops up in Google searches. What inspired you to start, and what is the mission of EmpowHer?
Well, thank you for that question. And yes, 20 years ago, now 21 years ago,
wow,
I founded EmpowHer Institute along with some really close friends of mine who shared my vision for really improving the lives of girls who had come from marginalized backgrounds like ourselves. Many of us have lived experiences where we came from working class communities. College was not necessarily a path that was laid out for us.
Right.
I happened to be a teen mom, so I came out of high school and got married, pregnant and married. And so I saw that as something that really slowed me down, something that was not on my trajectory in my head. I overcame that, but when I thought about EmpowHer, I thought about how I wanted teen girls like myself back then to not basically veer off their path of success because they were looking for love in all the wrong places,
Right.
or that they didn't have their sense of agency and their sense of love of self enough to say no to a boyfriend. And so that was really the underpinning of EmpowHer. And of course, there's some other things that really were part of the convergence, like the fact that I left corporate America and moved to South Africa to be in purpose, because it was a time in my life that I was asking myself, what do I want my legacy to be? And did I want my legacy to be that I was climbing a corporate ladder, or did I want my legacy to be that I was helping others and paving a way for others? And I decided that I wanted my legacy to be paving a way for others. And I left corporate America and moved to South Africa to basically help build a workforce and give people an example of who they could become, being one of the only Black women executives in this in the World African Telecommunications Company that I was a part of.
Wow.
And so it was just really a convergence of several different life experiences that brought me to EmpowHer.
That is so interesting. So when you think you know somebody, I didn't know you lived in South Africa. She was already my shero from the things I do know about her. But how long did you live in South Africa?
4 years.
Really?
4 years, yeah. I was there during the Nelson Mandela reign.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, when people were really optimistic and looking forward to a better life.
Yes.
He had been elected, and there was just so much hope. And it was just life-changing to be part of that hope.
I'm sure.
Unfortunately, you can't fulfill everyone's dreams, but we were certainly part of helping to make some of those dreams come true.
Well, talk about a legacy. That's a legacy, and that's just the beginning. That's what launched you into, right?
Yes.
EmpowHer.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to know, when did you first realize that you had what some would call leadership qualities? When did you identify that quality in Miss Betty?
Well, that's an interesting question about when did you identify. When I heard that question, I was like, oh, on the school ground.
Well, hey,
right,
talk about it. Tell us about it.
Well, of course, you never think of yourself as a leader.
Right.
You know, you just like influencing people, or you're giving suggestions. So actually, I guess formally, Tige, I thought of myself as a leader, or at least wanting to become a leader, when I worked in technology. And my first job out of college was with IBM Corporation as a sales.
You landed a big job.
Sales and marketing rep. And of course, the natural path at that time was to get promoted to a manager. So that was the time that I began to think of myself as that being something I wanted to become at IBM.
That's amazing. And you know, the reality is, like you were talking about earlier, not becoming sort of a victim of your circumstance, right?
Yes.
Being a young mom, out of college. Oh, did you go to college? I'm sorry, it wasn't even college.
No, I was a young mom out of high school. I was pregnant at my high school graduation.
Wow.
Right. So my
But
life
then
could have gone in a lot of different directions.
Absolutely gone in a lot of different directions.
And it did. It's just that I was able to get it back on track. And then I did go to college and graduated college, and then, you know, was the first in my family to work in a major corporation. My family didn't know anything about a corporation.
Wow.
And so to get a job at IBM, a tech company back in those days, was just unheard of, quite honestly.
Was there someone in your life that helped you kind of navigate that, or was it a moment that you sort of arrived, you know, to on your own? So
when I think about what the impetus was for my drive, it was my son. And so even though it wasn't a planned pregnancy, that me becoming a mother at such a young age really drove me in terms of what I had to do to make a life for my son and myself. And quite honestly, on the IBM front, one, to go back to school, because that would allow me to be able to create an economic picture for my son and myself that I didn't have growing up. And so he was that wind in my back and beneath my wings.
Yes,
exactly.
Now, I've been knowing Miss Betty probably about 7 years when I found out exactly who her son is. Tell us who your son is, Miss Betty. Tell us who he is.
Oh, Tige, don't embarrass me. So my son has always been a very special, he was a very special child. He became a very special young man. He went to Harvard Westlake School. At the time, it was just Harvard Boys School that I was able to finance a private school for him. And then he went on and graduated from Yale University. And became an actor. So what Tige's looking for is the mic drop that he was in Pulp Fiction. He was Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
That part.
And he was a UPS guy on what's the name of that skit show? Oh my God!
Well, if you say his name, the fans will know.
Phil LaMarr. The UPS guy on Mad TV. How can I forget that? He did 100 episodes on Mad TV.
Amazing. And we were sitting at a table because Miss Betty was part of a leadership program. I was one of the newer leaders in this program that Miss Betty, City Scholars, you've heard a few of my guests talk about City Scholars. And I think it was like maybe a year ago or so, we were sitting at the table, and I don't know if someone else asked you about your son. I've heard your son, I've seen her grandkids, like we've had conversations, and it never dawned on me to say, well, who is your son? And when she mentioned who her son was, I was like, shut the front door.
She did.
So the driving force behind you.
Yeah, he was a wind at my back that said, you got to create a path for him that I didn't have.
Yes.
And so going into IBM, you asked me if I had a mentor. I didn't have a mentor, but I was motivated again by money, and that's why I went into sales and marketing, because what I determined was that was a place that I could go and make as much money based on my effort. And so that was my logic. But of course, along the way, I absolutely met people who were encouraging and who were supportive and who really helped me along the way to figure things out.
That's good, because we all actually need that. And sometimes, self-motivation is great, but when we see and identify with somebody who's living a life that, oh my gosh, if I could be that, seeing sometimes is believing.
Absolutely.
And when you see someone living a certain lifestyle, a certain dream, you're like, oh wow, if they can do it, perhaps I can too. It's even better when they walk alongside you and help you.
Yes.
So talk about the journey of really starting EmpowHer. I know the motivation, but what was it like building a nonprofit from ground zero? What was that like for you?
So, Tige, I think, again, I was in a unique position when you think about it, because I had had a corporate career.
Yes.
I'd been a leader. I'd been trained in management for major tech companies. And so I knew about leading and managing, but I did not, I was selling widgets in the tech space, right? I did not know about selling a cause and selling people on the idea of my vision to help girls. And so starting that nonprofit was an eye-opener, because it really took me back to ground zero. Because there's so much that I did not know about the 501c3, about the nonprofit sector, about the impact sector. And so I had to learn a lot along the way. I took a lot of classes, because I am not shy about acknowledging what I don't know and seeking a path to gain what I need to know.
Right.
Because I don't need to try to create it myself when it's already been done. So,
absolutely.
So I participated in the Reardon Leadership Academy. I participated in the Alchemy. You name it, and I was probably part of it. I mean, and then you and I happened to meet in City Scholars, which was really accelerated my growth as a nonprofit leader.
Right.
And met other people who were basically, we could lock arms and go forward together and share ideas. But I will say also that there were times I wanted to give up.
I'm sure. You sing into the choir.
There were times I was ready to throw my hands up, because it's hard work.
It is.
But I will also say to you that I took a lot of what I learned in corporate America and brought that to the nonprofit sector. For one, collaboration and partnership. Okay? I mean, in the corporate environment, we would work with partners who sold our equipment. We manufactured, but they sold it. Right? And so I took that little concept when I came to develop EmpowHer and said, who's doing things out here who has a program out here that they are delivering, but they don't have access to the girls I want to get access to.
Yes.
And that's when I partnered with an organization that still exists today called NIFTY, Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship.
Oh, yes.
And so we actually started as an entrepreneur program.
Really?
We really did.
I did not know that.
Yes. And they had a curriculum, they had textbooks and all that stuff. And that was where we started in partnership with middle schools.
And that's where you still are today, middle school. You guys, are they high school too now?
High schools now as well.
Okay.
Exactly. But middle school was I considered that my sweet spot. And I say that because I wanted to go and touch girls at a time and a place in their lives where they could be influenced.
Oh, it's a very pivotal moment in that middle school age range.
Where I could help them build their confidence, where I could help them create a vision for themselves. And just as you said earlier, if they can see it, they can believe it.
Absolutely.
And so what I knew was important was not only learning skills, but having examples, having role models. And so whether it was an entrepreneur program, which we started with, and we ultimately just went to the EmpowHer Girls Academy because I realized I had to focus.
Right.
I couldn't be too broad.
Right.
Okay. And so we developed the mentor component of that program. In the entrepreneurship program, we had coaches who would come in and coach them on their program. So they still always had role models that they could see and to address that issue of if they can see it, they can be it.
Absolutely. So, okay, so you started the organization, what year was this?
2003.
2003. And again, building from ground zero, and I know yours was a unique situation. What were some of the lessons you've learned along the way that if there's someone out there that's looking to start a nonprofit, what would you tell them? What would you share with them in terms of just the things you learned, some of the things to avoid? I know signing up for programs and things like that, getting the help you need, but what were some of the things you learned along the way?
So, first of all, let me just acknowledge that we all come to this work from different lived experiences.
Yes.
And so what I did and what my shortcomings were may not be your shortcomings.
Right.
And what my strengths were may not be your strengths. But lean into your strengths, first of all.
Yes.
That's number one. Tap into what you know you're good at. The other thing that I will say to you is that as passionate as you are about helping people and as passionate as you are about your cause, whatever that cause is going to be, passion is not enough.
Yes.
You actually have to get other people who believe in your passion, and you actually have to get people who fund your passion.
Wait, hold on. I need some water.
Okay, because the truth of the matter is, remember that you are a public entity.
Yes.
You are a 501c3. You exist for public good.
And it's still a business.
It's a business, and it is basically you are responsible and accountable to the government, to the IRS.
Right.
Okay?
And your stakeholders and those who are involved, but ultimately the IRS.
First and foremost, the 501c3 qualifications.
Yep.
So then you can go and get your stakeholders, because the 501c3 requires you to have public support.
Absolutely.
The public support then says, who are going to be my stakeholders? Who are going to be the people who support me to really bring this mission alive?
Right.
Okay. And so understand that your passion is not enough. Understand what you don't know.
Yes.
And don't just struggle through it, but look for organizations who can help you learn what you need to know to run this business effectively and efficiently.
Yes.
So maybe you're happy with serving five constituents, but I don't think you're doing all this work to just serve 5 people. So we all want to grow.
Yes.
And so think about the fact that you want to build a business, as Tige said. This is a business. It's not just a hobby.
Right.
That is going to be sustainable and one that you can grow. And to do that, you got to build your skills and you got to build the infrastructure along with the staff to be able to continue to support year after year after year.
What do you say to those people who don't know what they don't know? Because that's part of the challenge. I know when I started in nonprofit management, I didn't always know what questions to ask. I didn't know what skill sets to actually bring to the table. So for me, it was figuring things out along the way and then trying to seek out people like yourself who have experienced in nonprofit leadership and getting to know you. But it's not always easy to just call up a nonprofit leader and say, can you coach me? Can you talk to me? Can you? And you don't always know what you don't know.
That is absolutely right. That is absolutely right. And to your point, Tige, you put one foot in front of the other.
Oh, yes.
You put one foot in front of that. And you just keep moving. And it's amazing what opens up for you. So, yes, you don't know what you don't know. But when you get to that next step and you're like, oh, decision point. What is it that will be helpful in making this decision? And so then you start asking the questions. It's kind of like that old adage, when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear.
That's good.
Okay? And so you start to ask. Yes, you don't know what you don't know, but you see that you have an obstacle in front of you. And now you start asking questions.
Yes.
Okay, and those people are going to support you. Those people, you're going to look for resources that can support you to get to the next level. And keep in mind, too, that growth is really an iterative process. It's a step at a time. And so don't think of yourself as leaping to the top. Think of yourself as growing to the top.
Yes. Well, I know I think around year 8 or 9 of Kids in the Spotlight, I was having a conversation with you and I kept referencing, well, I'm new to nonprofit. You like, girl, at some point you better stop saying you knew it. You've been in this game too long to be talking about you do at nonprofit. But it's so funny because we're forever learning, right?
Exactly. Great point, Tige. So you're not new, but you're new to new ideas.
Yes.
Okay, and quite honestly, for all of us, we have to be continuous learners. We have to be lifelong learners, particularly in the social impact space.
Absolutely.
Because things are always changing, the causes are changing, how you deliver services are changing.
The demographic of kids are changing, the culture is changing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so you have to continue to be flexible and know that you're going to be learning new ideas and new ways in which you are going to figure out how to sustain your business, or new ways in which you may have to do a course correction.
Yes.
Okay? So don't just lock in and say, I'm going to drive down this street. I see a cliff, but I'm going to drive down this street. No.
Right.
Let's be realistic here.
Let's strategically and intentionally put things in place to help us navigate.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, I love that. And I also know that I remember a time when we were talking, because I want to talk about team building and how you manage a team, because that's so important. That was new for me when I was really putting a team together as staff. It's one thing with volunteers, because we treat volunteers a lot differently than people that are on payroll, right? There's a big difference.
Yes.
So I remember one time I was having a meltdown with staff and I called you and I was like, Miss Betty, I just need to talk. And you're like, first of all, let's calm down. Let's go. And I was like, thank you, because I was just really, really emotional, not understanding how to navigate in a difficult situation with building a team of staff. How was that for you when you started bringing on staff members to help fulfill the role? Because it's no longer Miss Betty just operating this with friends. Now you have a team that you're putting in place. What was that like for you?
So, first of all, Tige, I want to thank you for remembering that meltdown moment, because those are the moments that we take and move ourselves forward, right? And so, again, remember, for me, building a team was different than it was for you, because I had quite a lot of experience in managing teams and hiring people. Right. However, being in this nonprofit space, I didn't have the money to hire people.
That part. Hold on.
Okay.
You see, you got me sweating in here.
I didn't have the money to hire people, so I was looking for access to resources that could help me advance my mission that I didn't have to come out of pocket for. So I tapped into organizations that gave you access to recent college graduates. I forget the name of some of these organizations now that I am now chief CEO of fund.
That part.
Okay, but there are organizations initially that I tapped into to get access to staff because they were committed to be with me. So I would tap into. It's kind of like an organization, kind of like the Peace Corps. What was the name of that organization?
Yes.
That would take these students right out of college and start to give them some exposure to
Right.
impact.
It's almost like AmeriCorps in a sense.
It is. There was AmeriCorps. That's a good one. So I think we did use AmeriCorps to get access to some resources. Also use colleges to get access to resources because you
internship.
Internships. Also, it wasn't just internships because some of the colleges, depending on the student's major, they had to do practicum.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So I had them for a year that they had to really come there and do some work.
Yes.
And log hours, right? But then the other part of building that team is your board.
Oh yes.
Right? And finding people, again, you can't hire people if you don't have money.
Right.
And so trying to get those board members in place to help me fundraise so I could hire the help that I needed. Because let me just tell you, initially, when we first started out, we had board members. We were running around doing a lot of stuff that we shouldn't have been doing with kids in our cars, taking them for presentations, kids and their parents, and
those humbling beginnings,
right? And board members out at the school helping us deliver programs.
A working board. You had a working board.
And they were really working. They're like, we're not even getting paid for this.
Right.
We got a job, and you asking us to do all this stuff.
Right.
But those were the humble beginnings.
Yes.
Okay. And we have board members who still remember those days fondly, quite honestly. And then, so to get some funds, the first position that I hired was a program manager.
Yeah.
To help us deliver the programs. And actually, what she was doing was the interface between our organization, the quality of the programs we wanted, and the teachers, because we were partnering with schools.
Okay.
And so that program manager was responsible for ensuring that our program was being delivered with quality in that school as part of the school day at that school location. But it was being delivered by teachers. So it had to be, again, talking about the collaboration, I knew when I was partnering with those schools that the schools had to have some skin in the game.
Right.
And part of my headset was, you got to give me a teacher. Actually, I learned that from NIFTY.
Really?
From my relationship with Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, because it was the schools had their teachers teaching their program. So you learn along the way.
Yeah,
in
that's a great collaboration, though.
Right.
And then having skin in the game is very, very important.
Absolutely.
I remember that when we started, when we do our program at group homes, we were like, okay, we'll fundraise and we'll get grant money and we'll show up and teach these kids how to do film. But we still needed the group home staff support.
Right.
And they weren't willing to really put in the support until the celebrities showed up. And they're like, oh, wait, you got my attention now. But then we started, wait a minute, we need you to have skin in the game. So guess what? This program is costing this much for us to do. How much can you contribute to that?
There you go.
And it was a big difference in how they showed up.
Absolutely.
So I want to know, because I know we got to wrap it up. This time go by too fast. I feel like I'm just scraping the surface with all the things I want to talk to Miss Betty about. But I want to know, as a leader, do you follow any trends in leadership, or do you have like certain leaders who you admire? What is that like for you?
So I absolutely follow trends in leadership.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because when as part of my executive coaching, in my rewirement, I am coaching nonprofit leaders.
Yes.
And I'm also coaching some for-profit leaders.
Okay.
Okay. So those for-profit leaders, they get to pay me to coach them.
Right, right.
And it's important to me to bring to them the kinds of questions that are relevant to their environment.
Yes.
And so that's why I have to stay up on the trends in management.
sense.
So in business and in management. So for example, we've heard a lot about emotional intelligence.
Right.
Emotional intelligence is alive and well. And as we look at what we're dealing with right now in the workplace, and that is intergenerational workforce and leadership, emotional intelligence becomes a key component of you building your leadership competency to manage all of those intergenerational.
Yeah, absolutely.
So absolutely, you have to stay in tune and in touch with the trends. Not only that, when you, let's take, for example, the whole DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we know George Floyd situation, all of these corporations, they got on board, they posted letters on their website, and they were very performative in terms of saying they were in support of it. What are we doing today? They're dismantling. There's a move afoot to dismantle these DEI initiatives in corporations, and also these environmental and social initiatives in the stock market.
You're absolutely right.
And so I say that, Tige, to say, when you talk about leadership, in those corporations, in your nonprofits, you got to move and flex with the changing of the times.
Yeah.
You can't just, by brute force, keep pushing forward.
Right.
You may have to backpedal to go forward, but you got to be in tune to those things.
No, that's true. I know, because now we're in a society where a lot of things are centered around self-care. And, you know, I had some struggles with self-care. And I remember one day we were out in Mission Viejo, I believe, and I was expressing my issues with, you know, so much talk around self-care. And you looked at me and said, well, you know, self-care does not mean selfish. I was like, huh? Because that's how I was perceiving self-care.
Yeah.
It's like, we're in a service organization. Self is on the back burner. This is about service, but really understanding that balance of what that looks like. And I'm still trying to figure that part out, you know, all of that it entails. But that is more of a recent trend, because when we come from corporate America, you know, I didn't have my boss talking about self-care and mental wellness. And
so it's some different terminology today, Tige, but it is still the same thing.
Really? How? In what way?
In what way? When you were in the workforce, you heard work-life balance.
Yes, I did.
You said, okay. That was the self-care movement beginning, work-life balance. However, the difference between work-life balance and the mantra that you hear today around self-care is that it's putting some responsibility on the part of the organization and the company to ensure that you're doing those things.
That's the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
But in the work-life balance, it's like you figure it out, but I'm going to keep pushing this much work on you, push this. If you don't say, ouch, I'm not going to stop pushing the work.
Good point.
Okay.
You know, this is why I have her own speed dial, okay? Because she helps put things in perspective for me. So we get ready to wrap up, but being the CEO of Fun, you are always traveling, and I'm always trying to figure out how I can travel with you. Can you just tell us a little bit about just some of your, extravagant, amazing trips that you take that I get to hear about?
Tige loves to make me feel guilty about this chapter of my life.
No, what Tige's trying to do is get some sympathy, so she said, come on, girl, let me take you on one of these trips. But come on, talk about it.
So what I'm trying to do, what I'm doing in this stage, Tige, is that I'm running hard to try to get in as much fun as I can while I can.
Yes.
Because at this stage and chapter of life, things can change in a blink of an eye.
Right.
Not that they can't change in your life in a blink of an eye, but really at the over 70 group.
Yeah. And see, you don't look, I want the water you're drinking, the food you're eating. I want all of that. Yeah, because no one would ever know that you're over 70.
Well, thank you. So I just got back from Cape Verde, which is which is an island off of the coast of Senegal, which is West Africa. Last year, I traveled to Bali, Singapore. I did all islands. I did Ireland. I did Indonesia, and I did Singapore last year. So this year, it's kind of lightweight, but as I said, I just finished Cape Verde, which was absolutely wonderful.
That's lightweight, y'all.
In August, I'm going to what has become kind of a regular trip for me, which is Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
But I'm excited because I'm going to take my grandson and some other members of my family.
Okay.
Because the joy for me,
next.
The joy for me is exposing my friends and family to new opportunities.
Yes.
And so as I experience new opportunities, you know, I would love to have them join me.
You follow her social media page. You will get lost in all of the pictures that Miss Betty shares on these amazing outings. So I get to live vicariously through her. I'm just trying to live, you know, make it a reality, I guess I should say.
Make it a reality.
Make it a reality.
All right. Well, come join me in Phuket in December.
Where are you going in December?
Phuket in Thailand.
Really? When are you going?
December 13th.
See, I got a little one in school. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to have to do a summer trip. We're going to figure Miss Betty, thank you. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for giving so much of yourself, your heart. You are one of those just pillars in this lane of being a CEO, retired CEO. But I love that you are always so approachable. When I called, one day I called her and she was in the parking lot going to an event and she still took my call. And that's very important. That says a lot to me. So I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for the time we shared. And I hope you all heard something today, a nugget, anything that will help you on your leadership journey, because I need you to know that your leadership characteristics, your leadership role, they matter. And most importantly, you're not alone on this journey. So grab something today and remember those 3 favorite magical words. Subscribe, like, and share. Until next time, again, remember your leadership matters. Bye now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I hope you were inspired and you gained some valuable nuggets that will help you to become a better leader and to walk in your God-given authority. Bye, until next time.